Yo, 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 Aiden Smith with the Paint Your Path podcast. We have a special guest. We have David Rule with Kevin Turner Painting. He's in Kansas City, and this guy is an absolute beast. Super excited for this episode. What is up, bro?
What's up, Aiden? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Doing good. This would just be a me and David episode. No Joel in this one just because David works directly with me. And kind of just want to, pick his brain on obviously what he's got going on and his history, but our relationship, how he found me, and a little bit about how he's able to do so much in his life. And we'll talk a little bit about that kind of off, the podcast. We were talking about how you're like a unicorn in the industry, right? Like 99% of the industry literally couldn't do what you do, and you've done it at a high level, which is crazy. So talk to me about like how you got started, your journey with the painting business, and I guess we'll start there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. I think from what I've been told, we've got a unique path to getting to where we're at today. So this journey for us, like my wife and I started probably about 5 years ago, had nothing at all to do with painting. It really was everything about just, we've got a real estate investment business, and we were spending a lot of time building out, the construction companies we needed, all the different trades around how are we going to come in, renovate these homes. Some of these are flips for us. Some of these were buy and holds for our rental properties. And honestly, it's helped us a lot in where we're at today from a customer service perspective, because we went through all the trials and tribulations of failed contractors, learned all the lessons that a lot of homeowners learn as well. And so for us, we got our GC license, residential, commercial, started managing all of our own projects, built relationships. A lot of that we were doing in-house, hiring employees to manage it or to work within that GC company. And then we got to a bunch of trades such as HVAC, things like roofing, things like painting as well, that we weren't handling in-house. And so for us, like we got things really dialed in with the roofing company. We got things really dialed in with HVAC, and we still struggle with painting. It was like the Wild West. Even with having a single painting company, we would go into two projects almost identical, and we could see that a lot of those painters coming in had zero procedures. There was zero consistency on how they're approaching the job, how they're delivering the job. The pricing was all over the place. And, we ended up coming across Kevin Turner Painting. It's a company that's been in Kansas City in the market for about 28, almost 30 years. Great reviews. Definitely a, on the tools type of owner. Kevin Turner had a phenomenal, reputation within the Kansas City market, predominantly challenging exteriors. So higher end homes, things like shake shingle siding, things like that with a lot of wood rot, things that a lot of the other companies didn't want to deal with. Kevin Turner Painting had a good name in the market for that. So when Kevin wanted to retire, we had some conversations with him, made him an offer, and that's kind of what brought us to where we're at today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shout out Kevin Turner. So just to kind of like, there's a lot there, right? So you guys initially were not even looking at a contracting business. Like how did that conversation come up?
Yeah, we had zero original intent to get into the contracting side of things. Both my wife and I have a background from our families in doing construction. We've got hands-on experience personally. So it's something that we were very comfortable with doing, but definitely didn't have a business aspiration to go down that path. It was really just kind of built, out of necessity, and kind of a natural evolution is how we got to this point. I would say a painting company was far down on that list, to be honest. As far as you would ask me 5 years ago, what do we want to do? Once we started looking at the numbers, like we run multiple businesses. That's kind of our background is in incubating and growing organizations. And once I started looking at the numbers and realized how big of a gap there is between, two chucks in a truck and a more mature business with marketing, with procedures, consistency, we thought there's a huge opportunity there. And I think, our growth is showing that was true.
Yeah, no, for sure. When you first bought the business, kind of what were those numbers like? And I know kind of the idea is like, hey, we're going to buy a more established name because that's easier to kind of scale up, right? You have that
Yep.
local name. It's already trusted, right? And then it kind of just hands it over to you. What are some things you ran into, and kind of where did you start out number wise?
There's a lot of lessons learned along the way, a lot of things that we found out. But just to start, so we purchased a company with it. As I mentioned, Kevin was still, for the most part, on the tools.
Mm-hmm.
He had started to separate a little bit. He had, it was a single crew organization, 2 trucks, single crew, a few sprayers. That's what came over with the business when we acquired it. And at the time when we acquired the company, it was producing roughly 350, 380K a year,
Mm.
just historically. And year over year, those numbers are very similar. It was also a seasonal business that would open up Kansas City market. We're going to start doing exterior painting sometime early to mid March, typically, to
Wow.
be ready. So, and then typically that season will run until October. And so the company before we acquired it, and this will as we get into the challenges, this is one of the challenges we ran into, is they would shut down
Yeah.
for sure by November. Typically mid October, they were shutting down for the season. So very, very seasonal business at the time when we acquired it.
Yeah, a lot of people, run into that. I'm from, Philadelphia area, and we ran into that also, right? Like even when I was with CertaPro, it was like if we didn't have those commercial jobs to kind of
Yeah.
rely on, I was making them calls, right? So I definitely feel that. And then as far as like acquiring the business, a lot of people are interested in that now, right? Because they're seeing people looking to retire. They're seeing these guys that are chucks in a truck. I come across them every day. They want to work with me, right? Because they're like, I need to
Sure.
figure it out. You kind of got a unique situation on somebody that wanted to sell. What did that like structure look like? You don't have to go too deep into the numbers, but was it like a monthly payment? Was it like, hey, here's the number that I want? Like, how did you negotiate that?
Yes. So he gave us an initial offer of what he wanted for the company. We ran through the numbers, and ultimately we ended up paying, which is pretty standard. We ended up paying roughly 3 times
Mm.
what his net was. So
Yeah.
as far as what he actually brought home after everything else was paid, and so for us, and that honestly that included the trucks, included the people were all willing to come over. They want to
Ready
continue
to
doing
go
what they're
business.
doing. And so, yeah, it wasn't the typical kind of M&A activity where we strategically searched this company out, looked at the numbers. But once we got into it, that's kind of the way the numbers worked out. And I think we were able to make an offer that worked for Kevin, obviously, and for us as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then when you first got in, you kind of took a look at the lay of the land. What were the first things you guys were like, "Hey, we need to improve on this, or we need to structure," right? Like, what did that look like?
And we may need a few hours for this one, to be honest.
Right.
So I should have gotten one out for this podcast. But basically, one of the number one things was this is an organization that had, I mean, when I say zero systems, I'm being
Mm,
extremely honest. There was zero systems in place. And so the quoting process, let's just start there, was literally a piece of carbon paper.
mm,
So Kevin would go walk around the property, write up the estimate on a piece of carbon paper. He would keep his copy. It'd go in a folder. He would hand the homeowner that copy. And that was the entirety of the sales process.
wow.
The production process was a whiteboard in a garage,
Mm,
job names and dates associated with it, and that's how they tracked production as well. And so when we came in, there's a lot of things we had to do. Number one is we needed to put an accounting system in place. So we needed to get QuickBooks stood up. We've got an accountant that works with us on some of our other businesses. So we brought him obviously into that conversation too. But a lot of the work, and especially where kind of you and I's evolution kind of went to, is number one, we had to set up a CRM and just get that going.
right.
We needed to build everything from the ground up. I mean, what we had was we had people that knew how to do the job, we had equipment, we had a good name in the market,
Yeah.
um, and that was it. Zero sales process, zero production process, and so it was really important for us. And we spent the first year, we didn't grow the company that much intentionally. We needed to get our handle on, like, we just need to get these systems in place.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
year one was 100% about getting systems in place for us.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of your background coming into play as well, of, hey, I have that corporate background, right? And I'm going to go in and look at it as what are the numbers? What structure do we have? What systems do we have in place? So that's the leg up you have when you get into something like that, and how you're even able to assess a business properly, right? Like most guys can't even think about buying a business. That's like far fetched to them, especially in this
Absolutely.
industry. And it's like, a lot of the Kevin Turners, even if, let's just say, I wanted to work with a guy like that, probably wouldn't work out because he had done it the same for so many years. So when you come in with this different mindset, and this is what's happening right now with private equity and the trades, they're
Sure.
coming in and they're just scooping these guys up and applying their systems and running with it, right? Portfolio companies. So it's just interesting that, that's why I think this is such a unique episode, because this is the other side of what kind of is happening to the painting industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you kind of first came across me, how did that happen? What did that look like? How did you find me? Stuff like that.
Yeah. No, great question. I mean, for us, our step one was we implemented Jobber and quickly realized like, hey, this will get us to that next level. At that time, DripJobs was pretty new, and we outgrew Jobber within the first year. The way we ended up coming to you was as we started to say, okay, we need to look at a different CRM. We started to assess, hey, what are the inefficiencies? What are the challenges we have within the organization? And we felt that DripJobs would handle a significant amount of those. But we also knew that what we had effectively done was we took kind of the core kind of bones of how Kevin was bidding things, which was very much a few line items, as I mentioned, on a piece of carbon paper. And best we could, we translated that into what we were doing with Jobber at the time. And so we knew that as we're making this shift, if we're going to make that change, we really need to dial in our production rates, our production side of things. And the other shift we were making is I was doing a significant amount of those estimates during the time when we originally acquired the company. And
Yeah.
that was really by design, because like we can't really effectively bring on a sales team without knowing that piece in and out on our own. And so, but what I also knew is there's no way for me to scale from me to that first full time estimator to that second to that third estimator without having a consistent sales process and production rates in place. And so, for us to, I'm sure we'll get into the numbers of kind of where we've grown and where we plan to grow to. But what we knew is there's no way that we can grow the organization without getting those things locked in. And so ultimately that's how we got to you, right? Was, we looked at, hey, how do we build a production rate model that's consistent, that's scalable, that'll work with us and our organization and grow with us as well. And yeah, that's ultimately, I think Tanner sent me a note and pointed me your direction, said, hey, talk to Aiden. And I think if I remember right, we started originally just with you doing a production rate engagement with us, and we've kind of taken the
Yeah.
relationship from there. Yeah.
Love that guy, Tanner. Tell you
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So yeah, I think I take, obviously it makes me feel really good that somebody that has a real path and is going to scale his business one way or another, trust me with that kind of build out, right? Giving them, I think you said it off the call right before we started, like it was the foundation of what you had to implement in order to make a simple, scalable model, right? Because that ultimately allows you to get off of the, sales appointments, train
Yeah.
somebody, and now you're not saying, oh, go write this down or wing it. You can hand that repeatable process over to them. And that's kind of how I like that you think that way. And I'm the same way, right? Like we need to set up things that are repeatable so we can ultimately get out of the business. And then who knows down the line, exit, sell, whatever that looks like, keep it, who knows? But like you have to start with simple, repeatable systems. So yeah, from there, we got into the production rates, implemented that, everything was going well. And then you kind of reached out and said, hey, like, what does the other coaching look like? What else do you have to offer? And at that time, like, what's going through your mind? Are you just saying, hey, like, I just want to see what else there is, or how did that look like?
Yeah. The biggest thing for us is just that path, that time frame between where we're at today and where we want to go, and how quickly can we compress that. And so for me, where we can find, and there's a lot of coaching out there, right? So like where you can find good coaching that aligns with the goals that you have for the organization. I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
And so for us, if we can say, hey, let's enter into this coaching agreement, this consulting agreement, and that's going to consolidate 18, 24 months of school hard knocks type of work that we're going to need to do ourselves, it's a no-brainer for us. I mean, and I think we're already seeing it with the growth that we're seeing within the organization between our year one, year two, and now as we sit here in year three. we're exactly where we want to be, and we can continue to grow from there.
Yeah. And then numbers wise, when you first got with me, where were you at and where are you guys at now? I don't even, how long has it been? Maybe a year, a little less?
November last year, I think, is when we got started with you.
Oh,
October,
so
November
that's
timeframe.
6 months.
Is that what it is? I think that's where we were.
Yeah.
So year one revenues were still consistent. I think we were 380 year one. Year two, we finished right at 780K. So decent growth year one to year two. That was still predominantly we've got some basic systems in place. We've got kind of the fundamentals of estimating in place, but really not optimizing. And, year three, so our goal right now is to do 2.5 million this year.
Sheesh.
Um, as far as the seasonality goes, we're about 100K above our current goal. The next 3 months are everything because the
Mm.
summer months, right? We do cabinet refinishing, interior finishing, and exterior painting. So those first two stay pretty consistent all year round, but those summer months we got to capitalize on all the exteriors as well.
Yeah.
So we've already passed last year's revenue. We passed it last month, and I think we're at another 200K in sales already this month. So we're on the right track right now.
That's amazing. Now, what was like the biggest game changer for you that allowed you to go in 3 years basically to 3 million in sales?
I just knowing the numbers and the systems, everything.
Mm.
I mean, and I know that's a simple answer, but one of the things that is outside of just the numbers and putting those systems in place. One of the challenges, one of the things that we've been really, really key on is we've got a great reputation for quality in the marketplace. So scaling the business on the production side, that's a huge task on its own. And
Yeah.
we've been lucky to find both. And we run a hybrid organization, so we have our own W-2 employees. We have some subcontract relationships too, and especially on those subs, we've been really lucky to find a couple of subcontractors that have the exact same attention to detail, all the things that people expect from Kevin Turner, because um, none of this that we're doing will work or means anything if suddenly our reviews tank.
Right.
So that's something that's 100% top of mind in every project that we approach, the way we finish every project. But I just want to throw that out there. That for us has been a huge challenge and something that's just as important as all the sales part. But once we get back to knowing the numbers, like I've got a really good idea of what it's going to cost me per lead, what it's going to cost all the way down to customer that converts from that original Facebook or Google lead or Angie lead, wherever that lead source comes from, all the way through to them having signing their proposal. And so once we do that, honestly, once we have those systems in place, it's just a numbers game.
Yeah.
We know that if we increase budget, here by X, we're very, very likely to get the result on the end that we're looking for.
Yeah, predictable results. That's amazing. And like, what does your organization look right now? Right, you were doing sales in the beginning just because budget wise, it didn't make sense to bring somebody in too early. You didn't have the system built out. Now that
Yep.
you do, and you're kind of rolling, is it one sales guy, one PM right now?
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit and got signed off over the weekend, which is good. We'll talk about here. But so we have one estimator right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have full time VA/slash executive assistant, takes frontline calls. Most of the company communications kind of route through her. She helps to make sure everyone's on the same page. And then we just brought over, so we have my wife Stefana is running all the operations for us, and just for scaling, we have Kevin. So Kevin, who's one of our main was our main sub. We just brought him on full time. So the
Oh, that's amazing.
sub crews that are out there, we'll still have a relationship with that side of it.
Yeah.
But we brought him over the weekend to manage. So he'll be our production manager, managing both our internal crews, all our sub crews. We just signed a large commercial contract with a company that's got about 1,000 townhomes here in town. So we brought another
Sheesh.
sub to handle all those turns as well. And so for us, that was another piece of scale. We've got to, for both my wife and I, we've got to be able to work ourselves out of the day-to-day side of things and really be
Yeah.
able to focus on business strategy and growth.
Dude, that's huge, right? Having that plan of, hey, I'm going to remove myself out of the business, right? Like, I'm going to now just lead the company, right? And do high level, right? You did it with yourself in the sales. You did it with your wife in the production management, right? those are things that took time that you guys did methodically, and you guys listened to not only, the feedback of the customers and what was going on, but also with the numbers and made sure it made sense. You didn't rush
Sure.
anything per se. You could have took these chances early and maybe fumbled things, but you kind of stayed the course, right? It's huge. It's absolutely amazing. Um, yeah, man. And tell me a little bit about like your life, man. Like you have a job, right? Like some with another company, or is it your company?
Yes, so I work full time. This is my background. So I've got a job managing in tech sales,
Mm,
and so that's by far a full time job. That's not a 40-hour a week; it's a 50-hour a week job on that side too. And it gives us two things. One, it's interesting, Aiden. Like we learned that sales is sales at the end of the day. Like it's helping a customer understand, identify their needs, identify the pain points,
yeah.
make sure you provide them a solution that can solve it. So whether it's a you know 8-figure deal on a tech sales side, honestly, the components of that transaction are not that much different than an exterior repaint for a lot of folks. So um, it's interesting to see the way that side will translate over. It works very closely with what we're doing on the paint company side of things.
Yeah, I know. I remember we were supposed to meet one week, and you were like, "I'm actually traveling. I'm about to close a multi-million-dollar deal. We'll have to
Yeah,
put our thing on hold for a second." That's legendary. So, like,
yeah,
dude, we just talked about you building this $3 million business, buying it ground up, making it all happen, and then you still have a 50-hour a week job that is demanding, that you're killing it on. That just speaks to you, who you are as a person, and kind of like what discipline you have in your life, right? That not many people have even the thought process of making happen, or
yeah,
capability. Like I see you in the gym, you travel, you spend time with family, right? Like I'm on the outside looking in, but
yeah, yeah.
it looks like you're staying locked into what matters in life. And what's your motivation for doing all these things? I mean, it's amazing.
Honestly, like we love what we do. Both my wife and I love what we do. 100%. I love building. To build a world class organization. Like there's nothing better, And so for me, like to see where Kevin Turner Painting was when we acquired it, and seeing where it is today, but also seeing changes. It's like what we did over the weekend. I'm super excited about that, because that to me is the beginning of a new chapter. Where, all right, now as we look at lock again, and we're going to scale ideally next year to 5 million.
Yeah,
There's no way that we can have that kind of scale with us working in the business, the way that we've had to grow to this point. And be able to find those people that you can know and trust are going to do a good job. And that's everything. But it's honestly, it's fun.
that's
I
good.
think you're doing it. I think for the same reasons, right? Probably.
Yeah, nah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously the grind, like I just put a post today of, leaving my hometown, right? Just because I was
Yeah.
like, I just had a son, I wanted a better life for my family. I felt like the people I had grew up with kind of outgrew them a little bit. And I
Yeah.
was like, I want to try something different, and went out, paid a coach myself, grind it, didn't have results, right? It took a good year, 2 years until I actually saw something. And then from there, man, it just started going crazy, right? So luckily, it's led me to people like you, to where I'm able to work with like, super positive, super dialed in individuals, right? Honored to have you kind of a part of our group, and just to, spend time and help you with your business, and, get to know you. So appreciate that for sure. And then like, also I think having, the good people is like the biggest thing. So like for me, I always look at the successful people, and think like, what are they doing day to day, what matters to them, and do they have a mentor, do they have somebody that kind of instills that? Do you have a mentor?
Yeah. I think it's come in the form of a lot of mentors for different aspects of my life. I think overall, you've already mentioned, it comes down to like discipline and structure.
Yeah,
And like there's a quote out there, right? Like discipline's critical because motivation is going to fail.
yeah,
Like day to day. I mean, we think about in the paint company, you get a customer that's challenging, or lots of circumstances can happen,
yeah,
and that motivation goes pretty quickly. So, I mean, for us and for me personally, like coaching, mentorship, discipline, it all kind of goes hand in hand. And like if you look at my day, and it's probably similar to yours, like my day starts before 5 a.m. It starts at 4:30 in the morning, driving to the gym, get in there, get after it, get it done, at a high level. And you look at it at 6:30 in the morning, like a lot of folks still aren't even up yet. You're driving home, jumping on, doing those first calls of the day.
Yeah.
And I think that consistency there is something that's critical. And you get off to that start, and then it's all right. What do I need to do within the paint company? Let me make sure that everything is where it needs to be. Let's look at the numbers from yesterday. Let's see if there's anything we need to do. Get everybody set,
Mm.
and by 7:30 in the morning, like I'm on to the next job, right? So I'm on
Yep.
to the day job. Um, and so I've been fortunate in all those aspects, right? Been fortunate with good mentorship in family, good mentorship in careers, and I appreciate what you do for us in a mentorship from the paint side of things. Like we wouldn't be where we are today without relationships like that to know that we're on the right path and help us identify when we are on the right path and course correct too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's extremely important that, and even I've never been a morning person, but I've had to force myself, right? Because I'm looking at all these people that I'm looking up to, and then I'm trying to like emulate or take a page out of their book, and it's like you got to do it, right? Like I actually just traveled today. Woke up at 6:30 for a BNI, not quite as early as you, but traveled an hour for a BNI and just to, we're trying to grow the painting business, right, in a similar spot where we just moved down here. We're still getting it pretty dialed in. And I just felt like I got a call and they said, hey, we think you'd be a great fit. We have a spot for a painter and it's in like the best area in Orlando.
Nice, nice,
So
yeah,
I'm just like, dude, as much as I don't want to, travel that far for work, I'm like, at the end of the day, I can go in there, maybe spend 6 months kind of building those relationships. And then once, or earlier, right, have a sales rep come in and kind of replace me in that spot. And I still have that spot held down. So that'll be good. Um, yeah, man. What are your thoughts overall on kind of like, the painting industry now that you're in it? Are you going to be like involved in like things like the PCA? Is that an
yeah,
interest to you or anything like that?
yeah. We definitely want to get more. I mean, the biggest thing for us right now is like we're trying to buy back time because our
Yeah.
schedule is full, and so I think that we've done the right things to start to buy back some of that time. And I mean, those relationships are key. I mean, that's going to continue to help us accelerate. So PCA is something we're definitely excited about. We had planned to hook up and attend this year, and that's
Yeah.
when I got that call like, hey, like we got a week. I got to travel for work. So
Big deal.
uh, yeah, which we got to close. So it all worked out. Um, but next year we'll definitely be part of that, and that's really where we need to focus and spend our time
Yeah.
is continuing to, because I think for me we're going to get, it's a great opportunity to meet up with all our peers that we're already talking to. We do a lot of these calls via Zoom and things like that, and to meet face to face is, you can't replicate that via Zoom. So I think those building those relationships is key. Um, and the fact that gives us a condensed format where we
Mm,
can probably bring our production manager, we can bring resource for our company, help
yeah.
them accelerate their growth as well. That's gonna be critical for us. So we're definitely looking forward to participating in more of that stuff now that we got everything solidified. We got that foundation set where we can do those things.
Yeah. And then you said 5 million in the year after. That's a big
Yeah,
task.
it's a big number.
That's a big number. What are some key moves you're making to make sure that you guys can achieve that and not kill yourself in the process?
Yeah, we're gearing up. We know that we'll need to bring a second estimator on within the next 30 to 60 days. So
Yeah.
we're already looking at that, and then we're working on some development plans of how do we help to bring people within the organization, and maybe they're doing some door to door stuff, maybe they're doing similar things like
Yeah.
that, where we can identify who's that next kind of A player, who's that top talent that we can mature, bring them into the organization, because this will be critical for us to have a really solid, trusted pipeline of estimators we can bring in as we scale. I mean, at 5 million, we need to have 3 or 4 estimators. Ideally 4, because we're going to continue to grow from there. And doing the same thing on the sub side and our employees, like that are doing production. Make sure we have the right pipeline. Make sure that we have the right training in place, that we can, as we continue to scale and hit these big numbers. As we mentioned before, like production can't suffer, quality can't
Yeah.
suffer, and we're known as quality above and beyond everything else and customer satisfaction. So those aren't, scaling and still hitting those goals is not an easy feat, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Not many people are even capable of doing it. You need to be a specific type of leader too, right? Because people have to buy in. And what does that look like? What does leadership look like now that you're not in the business and you're building people up? Like, what are you instilling in the guys, or maybe some values you guys are living by that makes a big difference for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a company where we treat everybody like family, and I think it starts
Mhm.
there. That's the kind of company we're not interested in running a company where we're not doing that. And for us, like we don't take a paycheck from the company, so every dime that would go to us gets reinvested back in to help us grow, which I think is unique too. And
Mm.
so for us, like that allows us to reinvest in our people, right? Like when we talk about reinvesting back in the company, that ultimately means our people. And so where can we help train them? That's ultimately why Kevin ended up, coming over a big part. I sat down with him. He brought his wife along too because he wanted to make sure that she heard it as well. And
Wow.
we talked about what he's doing well, how valuable he is, and where we see him going as we continue to grow. And ultimately, for him, he had to make the decision to leave his own company
Yeah.
in order to come join our company. And so I think that's what we wanted it to be about. I think we love the fact that for our estimator, he's going out. We just found out he's taking project management classes. He'd like to help out on that side too. And so we have
Wow.
conversations to him about, hey, like here's where you're at today. Where do you have a passion for? There's plenty of room like where you could be the PM and Kevin's doing his thing as director of operations. You can help in that piece of it. So making sure that people don't feel like they're stuck where they are.
Yeah.
They've got a passion to do something bigger within the organization. If the more we can fuel that, the better they're going to be, right? And the more motivated and productive they're going to be within the company.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Like, people first. You got to make sure their goals fit within the scheme of what you're doing. And luckily for them, you're obviously an entrepreneur, right? And you want to grow this thing. So that's amazing. Are you doing any like personality tests or to make sure they're great fits? Like, what does that look like?
No, not yet. We're that's on the roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
100%. Like we've had some conversations around doing that, looking at some things that we can do around putting even a more formalized and mature kind of sales program and sales process in place. Um, and I think that's doing some of the disc stuff and things like the different personality assessments. Definitely something we want to implement. It's probably going to be something we put in place at the end of this year. We got a lot on our
Yeah.
plate right now.
That's so funny about the Kevin store, because that's like basically what happened to me with CertaPro, right? I had my painting business and they had ads all over the place for subs, and I was like, I wouldn't mind extra work, keep the guys busy. Went over, did some jobs. They realized right away kind of like how I was on them, communicate with customers, just being on top of things. And they got to a point where like, hey, we want you to lead our main crew. And then from there, it was like, we want you to be a PM. And then from there, we want you to be in a commercial. So
Yeah,
like I just kept moving up, but I was sold because I liked the people I work with, right? They were Christian, so we were a lot of the same values.
yeah,
And then on top of that, it was like, dude, we were doing, commercial. I think it was like when I first started 3 million and 3 million or something around those numbers. But it was like a super growing business, and I really bought into the guy I worked for. Like, the guy was named Martin. He was like a chemical engineer in his past career, and just an absolute legend. Like somebody that was
yeah.
super smart. And I think that's why that I'm so analytical as well about the things that I got going on.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean it's huge to kind of buy into the leader, right?
I think people,
Um,
I think people gravitate to that, right? I think people gravitate to the leader and the structure, and they want to be part of something bigger. And I think you
yeah,
see a lot of, home service companies out there that just run their day to day without any real growth goals, and not that you have to grow to be successful. But I think that attracts people to the company when they
yeah.
see that, hey, we've got a plan. Like, so I think that's huge.
And what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe doing 500K and has aspirations to hit seven figures and beyond? What are some tips or guidance you'd give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, like, there's so many resources that are out there. Like, number one, you've got to believe it's possible. Like, we wouldn't
Mm,
have a $5 million goal and beyond there if we didn't already do the research and know that it's possible. And I think, if you're sitting there at 500K and you want to get to 1.5 million, I mean, I don't think you'll disagree. I think that's a super achievable number. I mean, I think if you want to go from 500K to 1.5, that path is well traveled, and I think it means the things we already talked about. You've got to have systems in place.
yeah,
You've got to know your numbers. You've got to be at a point where you're willing to make those bets on marketing. And that part I think is tough to do. People don't want to spend the money on marketing. Trust me, we don't want to spend that money on marketing if you just see that money going out the door and don't have any idea what that return is going to be. But I think if you do those things well, I mean,
yeah.
that's the key, right? Find someone you can trust like yourself, and get those production rates locked in. Make sure you get your processes locked in and grow from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point too, because we've went over spreadsheets and kind of looked at numbers and whatnot, and you have to spend a certain amount based on your goal, and people are refrain from spending, and then it's like, oh, I didn't hit my goal, or I'm not making the money I want to make, and it's like, well, you're not giving yourself the best opportunity to, right? You're
Yep.
stopping yourself short before you even have the potential to get where you want to be. And
Yeah.
and good thing for
By the way,
you, said,
no, I mean, we still have this conversation, internally. We do monthly business reviews. My wife and I sat down over the weekend. We were, talking about bringing Kevin on, doing these other things, and she's like, "Hey, should we cut back any marketing spend?" And I'm like, "Well, let's run through that scenario.
mm,
Let's cut back by 15%. Here's the bottom line impact that's going to have. So if I can trade $1 for seven, I'm going to do that bet every day of the week." So
yeah,
I'm like, and out of that, because we know the numbers so well, and because we can have that conversation in a productive way. I'm like, I know you approach this conversation from the standpoint of maybe we should look at, like, let's make sure we're being really efficient with our operations and our spend. I'm like, actually, we need to double our marketing, just so you know. And so, but it was only because we had that data where she's like, I never thought about it that way. Now
yeah.
we need to now it makes sense, and so we're going to double down on what we're doing with Google right now, and expect to see huge growth hopefully there.
Yeah. And also, you kind of made sure you got the best vendors, right? I mean, not only did you hire the best coach, but you
There it
got
is.
you got the website guy, you got the Facebook guy, and you weren't afraid to say, look, like, we have goals, and if you're going to help us get there and get us results, we're going to make sure that we do it, and we
Yeah,
lock in.
yeah. I think I hit goals within the first 3 minutes of every one of those conversations. Like, hey, here's where we're at. Here's where we're going. Is this something you feel like you can help out with? And by the way, to your credit, like, we talked to a lot of folks when we signed up with you. We do a lot of due diligence, and so yeah, we try to put the best team. I mean, I think that's one of those things. When you look at coaching, look at those things, like, that's not an area where you want to cut corners. There's other areas where maybe you can try, but yeah, you want to pay for those results.
Yeah, man. I think again, you're just extremely interesting, man. As far as kind of where you were, where you came from, how you live your life with a whole nother job, scaling up to 5 million in the next year or two. Like, it's just amazing. Yeah, man. What are some things you kind of want to? Anything you want to get off your chest? You want to mention, or anything you got for us?
That's a good question. No, I mean, honestly, I think for us, um, we're really locked in on where we're at today and where we want to go.
Yeah,
And I think above and beyond that, we just want to continue to look at where we can bring other relationships into our organization. Those other individuals that can help us grow. But right now, like, we're pretty locked in on what the next 6 months looks like, the next 18 months look like, and it's full steam ahead on those goals.
yeah. What's the plan? Kind of the next, if you could draw it out in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, for us, number one is, um, we're going to grow the company to $5 million. And I mean, honestly, like, that's, to me, that's just a number at the end of the day. Like, the goal is
Yeah,
not to have a $5 million company. It's just, for us, we look at different milestones. Once we get to that point, what that means to us personally is we have a lot of autonomy from the business. We've been able to step back. We've been able to do those things that we do best. Look at, hey, how do we continue to grow this organization in a strategic manner, like in a consistent manner. Buy our time back would be something beautiful too, right?
yeah,
What we do after that point, um, that's really a decision we'll probably make as we start to approach, as we start to see that number in sight. For us, like, people ask, like, hey, do you want to sell the company? What do you want to do? Um, I would love to have a company where we're able to elevate somebody within the organization or bring someone on as a general manager
yeah,
to help manage that day to day. And at $5 million, we'll be at that point. And honestly, if we've got that stuff locked in, we'll continue to grow from there.
yeah,
I think it's something that, as we look at buying our time back and hopefully having, although we don't take a paycheck from it now, having something with some returns on that investment down the road, to provide the life that we want to have for our family and kids and spend more time now that we've got. I don't think we mentioned we've got blended family with 6 kids. We have 3 grandkids now. Um,
Damn.
yeah, man. And so buying some of that time back is critical. Like for us,
Yeah.
that's the most important thing.
And you know what's crazy too, right? Like there's a lot of home service businesses out there, and a lot of people talk about value in the industry.
Mhm.
What value do you bring to the table aside from just painting, right? Or
Oh, yeah.
how can I raise my prices, or how do I offer premium? Like you just kind of went down an entire list of value you bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
Opportunities for people in your industry, people in your company, I'm sorry, so they can buy in to what you guys are doing. Treat your customers with respect because they know they're taken care of and they're a part of a good organization with good leaders, right? Real systems that help the customer stay in the loop of things, right? Like you said, there was no estimating process. There was no, processes throughout the day rather than just Kevin. Now you have an organization that is better for the customer, better for the employees, better for you because ultimately you create this environment that you could eventually get your time back and now build something you're proud of and a legacy. There's winning all across the board, right? And you did it the right way. Always had, good values and what you've done and our relationships and whatnot. I cannot say more good things about you. So I'm just excited for the future for you and just know that you're doing it right in an industry that a lot of people don't have the capability, but do it wrong, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the last piece on that too is just with our customers, especially with we do projects all the way from small projects to super high end customers, and um, for us, what's been critical, and this is a huge part about how we evaluate the people that we bring in, and kind of you mentioned the personality assessments will be something important for us as we grow. Um, the character of individuals that work within the organization is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, our customers end up being family. Like we get texts while they're on vacation, like, "Hey, just want to let you know, like, thank you guys." Or we
No.
get pictures when they're back in their living room, like, "Hey, we love the living room," like whatever it is. And so seeing that piece, really, it's a good affirmation for us that hey, I think we're doing things right.
Yep.
Um, we had a unique scenario still playing out, to be honest. Um, we've got a customer, phenomenal customer of ours. This is, we've done the entirety of her interior, kitchen cabinets, help consult on um, the countertops, where to get, because since we have, to step back for a second, us having a background in doing high end remodels for our
Yeah.
own properties gives us a really good network of vetted, peers in the industry. And so it does become a unique value proposition. It shows up in the referrals we get from our current customers because what we have become known as is they'll ask us like, "Hey, do you have someone that can help with this piece of it?"
Right.
And we're like, "Absolutely. We have someone we know and we can trust that can help them with it." But long story short on this is someone that I mean, she's texted my wife, 2 or 3 times a day, just as friends almost through this process. We're over there doing a project. They're out of town, so a lot of these folks, they just give us the code to the house because they know our
Yep.
people, they know who we are, and we walk in evidently on a Saturday. They're on the East Coast for a graduation, so they're back in Maryland, I believe, for a graduation. We find the basement's full of 4 inches of water.
Wow.
And this is a house that we just completely has been remodeled. We've repainted everything, and so one of the things that really solidified that relationship, my wife calls her, lets her. She's got to make that first call, let her know what's going on, and from that, like we're now obviously helping her through all the remediation because now like they see us as not just a painting company, we're the trusted advisor to them
Yep.
on just all of their home needs and say, hey, who should we call help with this flooring piece? And so it's because something we're pretty proud of in the market is that hey, like people know us, they trust us, we've treated them well, and I mean you know how this works with when she calls her cousin or she calls her friend and refers us, like that business is a lock for us because
Yep.
like we've already been vetted out and trusted. So those are the things that when I look back at like what we've done since acquiring the company, like I think that's one of the things we're most proud of is like those relationships have been phenomenal.
Dude, super impressive.
Yeah.
All right, David. Well, it's been a pleasure, my man. Kevin Turner Painting. Where can people find you?
You can find us kevinturnerpainting.com. Same thing on Facebook, Instagram, all the socials, kevinturnerpainting.com.
My man. Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm grateful to have worked with you and build a relationship with you, my man. And I hope that you make the best painting business ever and get all the time back you deserve. All right, brother?
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thanks for everything
Thank
you do
you.
for us. All
We'll
right,
talk
later, man.
soon.